Hey everybody, it's your host Kaylee, and welcome to the Best of 2019 episode. So basically this episode serves as just a capturing all of the best moments from the show, the best interviews, the best segments, the best featured music of this year. This is also a great way to catch up on some of the best moments. So if you missed the episode here and there in the beginning of the year, in the middle, or even recently, this episode will help you catch up. And so it also serves as a great way to introduce your friends and family to the episode. So please be sure to share it with the people that you know. But before I sign off and let the mashup roll, I just want to tend to a few housekeeping things. So don't forget about the listener letter form. I'll probably tweet it out today, not long after I post this episode. And don't forget about our social justice spotlight, and I'll also tweet that form out. So basically, listener letters, if you need advice about anything, I will try my best to help you, and you could just drop it in. It's totally anonymous. I'll just read only your letter on the show, and that's all I'll see. I won't see your email, your name, nothing like that. And then I'll just basically give advice. And with the social justice spotlight, that's basically, I want to hear stories about things going on locally, like in your neighborhood or in your state that isn't making mainstream news that needs social justice attention. And also it serves as a way to kind of acknowledge like local heroes, people who are doing great things, but again, aren't getting that mainstream attention. So I just want to kind of do both things with that. So again, I will tweet out those links, but it's also available on our website. And I'll tweet that out too, because it's kind of long and you might miss it from here. So yeah, thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to let the episode begin. See you in 2020. I appreciate you listening week after week, and I just ask that you just help me spread the word and get the show out to more people. Tell your friends to subscribe, to listen, all of that. Help me by retweeting my posts or anything like that. I really appreciate it because, again, this is my dream. This is a passion. It's not just something I do on the weekends or a hobby. Like, this is life. Like, ball is life. This is life. So we're going to go ahead and jump in and get started this week. So we're going to jump in with Black Excellence, and that goes to Marsai Martin. She plays Diane on Blackish. And the trailer for her movie Little just released. And it also stars Regina Hall and Issa Rae. And it looks fabulous. Like, I'm excited to go see it. And so this actually was Marsai's brainchild. She came up with the concept of the movie, and she even fired her agent who told her to just sit back, relax, and chill and just stop doing so much. So she is Black Excellence. She is a boss, and I'm so proud of her. She's executive producing the movie at 14 years old, which I think makes her the youngest to ever do it. So definitely Black Excellence. Also this week, a lot of stuff has been going on. Centonia Brown, she was finally released. Well, she's not released. She's granted clemency, but she will be released in August. So that is very exciting news. She spent most of her life in prison, and she is a sex trafficking victim. So I'm glad to see that she can hopefully get a fresh start at her life. Now, of course, everybody watched R.Kelly's documentary, Surviving R.Kelly, that aired on Lifetime. And I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to trigger anyone. But there were just so many different things that, just really were remarkable to me. And one of those is the fact that he was performing at the Winter Olympics at the time of the charges and all of that going on. And it was just mind-boggling to me. But it shows how much, or rather how little, they care about women and victims of sexual abuse and assault, and especially Black women. I think that if he was accused of, assaulting young white female teenagers, that it would have been a different story. He would not have been performing at the Winter Olympics and everything like that. So that was very shocking. Also, I was young at the time, and so I didn't really get it, but there's been kind of dialogue and discussion about it on Twitter, and it makes sense. Like, why do people call it a sex tape? It was a rape tape. The victim, she was way too young. She could not fully consent to sex with such an older man. And so that was not a sex tape. It was a rape tape. And you have to watch your language, because language, in fact, does matter. And people think, oh, it's just semantics. Oh, you're just being so picky. But no, it really matters because it helps change the narrative. So anyway, another thing that stood out to me was Aaliyah's parents saying that, before the documentary was released and when it was airing, that they were there the whole time and all these things about Aaliyah are lies. People saw it. And at the end of the day, like, you were there when they got married. That's legal documentation, sis. Y'all were not there every step of the way unless you were there co-signing the wedding between your 15-year-old daughter and this really older man. So again, it's like, I understand that you don't want to admit to the fact that you let your daughter fall prey to such a thing, but it is what it is. And you could honor her legacy by helping fellow victims and helping, get the word out about what he's done. Like, the pride is a dangerous thing. It could be the downfall of many. And that's all it comes down to, is that Leah's parents, they're trying to hold on to their pride and their dignity, and they don't want to face what they've done. And a lot of people don't want to face the bad things they've done or how they haven't done right by their loved ones. Another thing that stood out to me was Sparkle. Like, there was sketch behavior in the fact that he wouldn't let people in his camp talk to Sparkle. And then she talks about how she went out of her way to be so defiant and go and boldly talk to those people. That was sketch behavior right there. That should have told you something. So I'm not sure what made her follow up and introduce her 12-year-old cousin to him. Like, I don't get it. And so while I sympathize with Sparkle and everything like that, it's not adding up to me. Why would, again, you're just ignoring things. And she said it couldn't be me. And so I think that mentality is why she introduced, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Like, it's not that type. It's not going to happen to my family. Like, that, again, and it will be discussed later when I have an interview with a doctor who's going to speak on a clinical perspective of this documentary. Again, that's such a dangerous thing. You don't know what can happen until you're in that situation. And it's just you need to take all things at face value. Also, there is the idea, which was shocking to me. I didn't know that R.Kelly couldn't read or write, but there's that. And so his ex-wife, Andrea, was saying there's, who's helping him book these flights? So there's that level of complicity. All these people speaking in the documentary, y'all knew of the bedroom and the main studio room and off in these little areas. Y'all saw the girls, y'all helped do these things. Y'all helped usher these girls in. So again, it just speaks to how we do not take Black women's lives and our value and worth and our safety seriously. All these people were helping facilitate that, and they too are just as guilty as R. Kelly, because R. Kelly couldn't get where he's at and done what he's done without others. And so that to me was just so shocking. And watching these people just openly talk about these things, I'm like, yo, you just let that go on. Why? Where are your morals? Is money that important? I get people they need to make the bread, they need to feed their families and all these different things, but again, you need to have that basic moral and principle and sensibility. And it's mind-boggling to me. And then, of course, all the different things, how people couldn't leave to get their hair done, and their hairdresser had to come to them, or they would be starved for 3 days if they disobeyed the rules, or how they couldn't look at other men, or they get slapped, they had to ask to brush their teeth and use the bathroom, all these different things. It was just mind-boggling to me, and it's crazy. And also that he tried to pin it on his brother and say, well, maybe he's the one, it's not me in the tape, that's my brother. That's just wild, and shows how low of a person, how low that he was stooped to try to blame his own brother for his own actions. And another thing that's mind-boggling to me is that Marvin Sapp recently collaborated with R. Kelly on a song, and it's still getting airplay, it's still getting radio play even after the documentary. And sexual abuse is so prominent, and Black families, they typically ignore it, and we'll get into that later. And then even just in general, religion, they kind of put that down, they just ignore it. All these Catholic cases of the priests abusing the kids, this stuff is all ingrained. And it's just amazing, and it's just mind-boggling to me once again. But something that I really wanted to hit on, well, the Pied Piper thing, crazy. I didn't realize it till now. Other people have hit on that. But what I really want to talk about is this manipulation thing. How the girls were like, oh, he's shown me this side of him. And you guys don't know this side of him. Y'all don't know him like that. And I think it was just so important to hit on that manipulation tactic, how they have a moment of vulnerability to you. They open up to you about something personal. And it does. It scoops you in. It pulls you in. And that's just aside from sexual assault victims. That happens with all, or sexual abuse victims. That happens with all, abuse, whether it's emotional and verbal and physical, all these different things. I thought I was building a real connection with this guy, and I was trying to go against what someone who was his best friend was telling me, just because I'm like, well, oh, you don't know about these moments we share. You don't know about these things that he told me. But in the end, what was real, and he wasn't a good person. And I wish I would have listened beforehand, but I just really wanted to point that out because it was just such an important thing to discuss. And one more thing I want to do is shout out to Dominique's mom, Michelle Kramer. I'm so proud of her for fighting for her baby girl and fighting so hard. She's a real parent. She is a real mother. And I'm just so happy that Dominique's back home safe. I can't express how good it was to see that. That episode 5, it got me. I was crying. But yeah. And again, like I said, when we come back from this break, we're going to speak with a doctor, and she's going to, Dr. Hooper actually, and she's going to speak clinically on this documentary and mental health and young adolescent sexual abuse survivors. So yeah, I think it'll be a great episode. All right, we'll take a break and we'll be right back. Hey everyone, we are back and joined by Dr. Danielle Hooper, who, as mentioned earlier, will be speaking about the documentary from a clinical perspective. Hi Danielle, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. Saturday, that's always awesome. So, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and jump in. And so, could you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your work?
Sure. So I am a pediatric nurse practitioner, and I specialize in mental health. And I see children and adolescents for mental health issues, including anxiety, depression, bipolar, and PTSD. And I opened my practice here in Marietta, Georgia, the end of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just made it my mission to get the word out there to the community about mental health,
Mm-hmm.
and just help improve these numbers and give these kids a place to come for treatment.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And on my podcast, a lot I speak about mental health. I don't know if you've had a chance to check out past episodes, but that's definitely something that I heavily advocate for adults and children, like just taking your mental health seriously, because some people don't view it, as seriously as like physical illnesses and things like that. So
Absolutely. They have been always essentially two different components, and it's just as important to address the mental health as the physical health, and including the emotional and spiritual health as well too. So all of those components are essential in order to move forward and get these patients the right treatment they need.
absolutely. And so before I begin with the next question, I want to use the term allegedly for legal purposes only. It's not truly reflective of my beliefs. So moving
Okay.
forward, a lot of R. Kelly's alleged victims were between the ages of 12 and 17. Could you describe aspects of the adolescent mind frame that will allow for them to fall victim to a predator? Like, what are some risk factors?
Absolutely. So, we all know that the 12 to 17-year-old, their mind is underdeveloped, and they are very easy to entice at that age.
Mm-hmm.
You can bribe children with food and toys and gifts, and you can even bribe adolescents with perks and things that their family is not able to provide for them. So they are very, very vulnerable at that age,
Mm-hmm.
and the mind and brain are underdeveloped. And the predators prey on this particular group of people because they learn them,
Mm-hmm.
and they study them, and they identify the children who are vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
who are easy to control. And the biggest thing I think predators like in this age range is they find the ones who are easily accessible,
Mm-hmm.
and also they find the ones who parents aren't, heavily involved, and there's very little parental engagement. So these are the ones who get dropped off at the neighbor's house or get dropped off at the friend's house frequently, and those are the prime ones who get set up for all types of abuse.
Mm-hmm. And so, just kind of thinking of the documentary, there were so many victims in the documentary, but is there one that you can point to in particular that was described that kind of speaks to that adolescent mind frame? And
Well,
go ahead.
yeah, and it's unfortunate because, most of them were right around the age of 16,
Mm-hmm.
17, and 18. And again, you have those, first of all, with R. Kelly, you have the aspect of he's famous,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the celebrity, and I'm kind of stargaze. So you
Mm-hmm.
have that already as a foundation. And then you further manipulate this child, and, again, with the perks and benefits and the wealth and what I can provide for you, that further lures them in, and it creates the perfect environment for the teenagers to become, essentially the victims locked up in the home. And then this further perpetuates the abuse, because now they're mentally controlled, they're physically controlled, they're sexually controlled, they're financially controlled, and this just breeds a ground of self-hate, self-shaming. Did I put myself in this abuse? They have blame, they have fear, and that keeps them in that environment until, they get to a point where, they said, I'm not taking this anymore.
And I was thinking about Dominique, because she's the one that we saw in the documentary get rescued by her mother. And I was thinking about how, R. Kelly broke them down and convinced them that no one else loved them but him. So could you kind of speak to how can they do that? How can they convince you that your parent doesn't love you? Because from the documentary, we saw that Dominique's mother loved her very much. And, she was banned from the hotel, but she decided to go back in because she wanted her daughter. So how can they just convince them of this?
Yeah, and that's very similar to what the Savages, that their daughter is experiencing right now, because she is still with him. And, supposedly that video was released where she's stating, I'm fine, I'm okay, this is where I want to be. But that goes back to show just how far she's been manipulated. Because although she's, released this video, it's her parents, she's been told what to say, exactly what to say, and how to say it. And this is just as similar to people who are kidnapped and held captive. And, you have videos of prisoners from overseas releasing videos stating, I'm okay, I'm still alive. But it's all brainwashed and they're manipulated. And if that's their daily exposure to someone telling them, I love you, they don't love you, this is best for you here, they're hearing this repeatedly, this is what the person starts to believe. And once they believe it, they can be released or leave the home, but feel the need to come back to that space, because that is now a learned behavior. Well, this is what he told me, this is what is accurate, this is what is correct, so I need to come home. And that is part of the brainwashing, because again, like the women who are still there, I'm sure some people are saying, why don't they just walk out the door or just get up and leave? They are now in a almost a trance over there, and it's going to take something like, police going over there and authorities getting involved, and that person's going to just need years of therapy to kind of undo all the damage that's been done.
Yeah, and it just reminded me, like what you were saying, I was thinking about Dominique, because at the end, it displayed kind of like where everybody's at now from the documentary. And it talked about how Dominique went back about 3 days later, but then she came back home. So yeah, it just kind of speaks to what you were saying with that whole trans, and they're just, so that sort of thing. And
Definitely.
So you were talking about how they'll need years of therapy to undo the effects. So I kind of just wanted to ask you, could you speak to the effects that sexual abuse could have on the mental health of adolescents and teenagers?
Absolutely. There are multiple effects of emotional abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, including the obvious, which are depression, anxiety, sleeping problems, agitation, even prostitution. But they all seem to lead to PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder. And with that, you have the isolation, you have the withdrawn person, they have poor self-esteem, they feel embarrassed, ashamed, and some of those lead to kind of like a hypersexualized person, and those are the ones that continue the abuse. And another most common effect of history of sexual abuse is substance abuse. They are trying to numb this feeling. They're trying to make it go away. They're trying to cover it up. And, researchers have already identified that 90% of people who abuse drugs or alcohol have a history of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And so we know the outcome of that, and we know what happens if someone cannot get treatment, and just a lifelong of self-blame and hurt, and it instills the shame in the victim, and just PTSD, alcohol abuse, and just a lifelong sentence of mental health issues.
Mm-hmm. And then a lot of the people in the documentary, they also expressed that they faced domestic violence at the hands of R.Kelly.
Yes.
And, we were speaking earlier again how it's not easy to leave. And that's the same thing with domestic violence. It's not easy to leave. And I think they were saying it takes at least 7 tries for the victims to leave and things like that, and how dangerous it is to leave because a lot of the times they try to kill them when they do. So can you kind of speak to that added component, like how when you already have to deal with the sexual abuse and the domestic violence, could you kind of speak to the effect that both of those at the same time can take on mental health and things like that?
Absolutely. So, part of the way that the control is given to the man is the physical abuse occurs on top of the sexual abuse. Mm-hmm. So not only is a woman scared to be raped repeatedly by the man, but even down to hit and kicked and slapped, and that is a form of keeping them in the homes. Mm-hmm. And just out of fear of the abuse repeating or getting worse, if I try to leave and I get caught, I know I'll be beat even more often, or now I'll be tied to the bed, or now I won't be allowed to walk around the room. That fear alone has provided, and the thoughts drive your actions. So if they're mm-hmm. thinking that, I have this fear, it's going to control their actions, and that keeps them in the home longer. And there's multiple reasons why women stay. It's a fear of being beat more. It's the financial, he controls all the money. I have no place to go. Mm-hmm. I need to stay because of my children, not so much for the adolescents, but for the older women. Mm-hmm. And, this is just part of the lifestyle that they have grown accustomed to, and they don't know any different. And they say, I can't be on my own. He controls everything. He has the money. He has the cars. I have no education. I have no job. I can't work anywhere. And that prolongs the abuse, and mm-hmm. the guy knows this. And so he keeps that environment for the woman, so she's not able to leave. Mm-hmm. And, again, this can go on for years before someone can actually kind of break through and free of that.
Mm-hmm. And then this is kind of an aside from the general discussion, but just thinking that there's so many people who will say, oh, that wouldn't be me, that couldn't be me. And I just kind of want to get your opinion on it. I feel that you can never say, like, what will be you, what won't be you, until that situation occurs. Yeah, go ahead.
You cannot speak of that until you're in that situation. And also you have to have all those same factors as that same person has as well. Mm-hmm. Because I know even people, make comments similar to slavery, if I were growing up in that day and age, that wouldn't happen to me, or I wouldn't get this. And you don't know unless you're in that situation. Mm-hmm. And, again, back to what I originally said, the abusers pick out particular people mm-hmm. and particular personalities. So maybe if they saw that this person was one way, maybe they sensed they wouldn't be able to control them. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't be able to keep that one person in the home. But they see someone else who is more vulnerable, mm-hmm. who is younger, who has the younger mind, is easily influenced, and they said, I can get her, though, or I can get him. Mm-hmm. 3 out of 5 boys are sexually abused, mm-hmm. opposed to 5 out of 7 women. So the abuse is on both sides. Mm-hmm. So that is a component of it. They seek out particular types of people. Mm-hmm. So that's also something to recognize, because it's a certain type that they focus in on.
Absolutely. And you were just speaking to male victims as well. And it just made me think about, like we were talking about Dominique earlier, and R.Kelly, like, he picked up on the tomboy aspect of her personality. He played into that and had her basically transform into a boy. So,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of speaks to so many things you were saying, and it also makes me wonder if there are male victims of R. Kelly out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And since there's still a stigma with that,
Mm-hmm.
not just the mental health aspect, but males aren't easily coming out and stating this information because there's a lot of questions that go through their mind if they're getting sexually abused,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to question their sexuality. And, sometimes the abusers, it's not painful. It may feel good, and then they feel embarrassed and ashamed. And so who knows if there were males involved?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then just kind of to wrap it up a little bit, if you could just, aside from a clinical perspective, if you could just give kind of your general opinion of the documentary.
Yeah. So I think the documentary was, we needed that out in order to have these narratives
Mm-hmm.
because this is still going on and it still needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Parents need to know how to talk to their children and teach them about appropriate touching, areas that are off limits, knowledge of their own body, because a lot of times kids don't know what is right from wrong. And I've even had cases go to court that were dismissed because a child didn't know their proper name of their body part. And
Mm-hmm.
so they could not even accuse the molester of any abuse because we're playing around with baby names and nicknames, and they
Mm-hmm.
couldn't prove that in court. So it goes down to listening to your kids, never dismiss a child's attempt to tell you some abuse has happened,
Mm-hmm.
and just honestly connecting with your children, knowing where they're at, knowing who they're around, knowing their boundaries, and just keeping that communication open. I think that is imperative as a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that documentary was necessary in
Mm-hmm.
order to create these types of conversations.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I was just thinking about a few things that you said, and
Mm-hmm.
when you were talking about people don't know like the proper names and stuff, and a lot of that, I would say would have to do a little bit with religion and Christianity. Like, there's that shyness. We don't like to speak on sexual natures and things like that, and we feel like kids are too young to know certain things, and that can be damaging, as you were saying, with cases being dismissed. And
Absolutely.
and I
And
also go ahead.
yeah, and that just, I've seen it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Firsthand in the witness stand. Again, people call them private parts, even like candy bars, for
Mm-hmm.
example. So when you say, he touched my Snickers, you can't validate that in court. You
Mm-hmm.
can't send anyone to jail over an accusation of touching Snickers. So when you teach your child from the beginning, this is what this is called, this is yours, these are the boundaries with yours, this is your private area, you already have initiated that conversation, and you're giving your child that solid foundation between what's right and wrong. So anything outside of that, at minimum, we would like to believe they can come and say, Mommy, you told me this, we talked about this, so this is what happened. And that starts that conversation as well.
Absolutely, because I know, like, in the Black community, like, kids are told to say, "Oh, I'm telling stories." Like, you can't say the word lie, and it's just,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just simple. Yeah, like, it's just simple things like that that can have like effects when it's applied to other areas. And then
Mm-hmm.
also in the Black community, which was kind of a dialogue I saw on social media because of the documentary, is that we don't acknowledge the sexual predators within our own families. And
Right.
yeah, and so I think in part that's one of the things I liked about this documentary is that it spurred that conversation that people are talking about, like, hey, it could be
Mm-hmm.
your uncle, it can be,
Mm-hmm.
and it's time to address that. It's no longer time to sweep it under the rug or just kind of talk about it as one of those things that happen.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's very classic in the family homes. Is they will have knowledge of it, but just choose to avoid it or ignore
Mhm.
it. Versus getting that family member some help, which only hurts the victim because you're essentially prolonging this, and you're essentially like supporting this, and it hurts the abuser as well because they're not getting treatment or any type of help.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have a family member, living somewhere, and they'll just say, "Oh, we're not going to go over to his house," or "When we go over there, just ignore him." That's not helping the victim or the abuser.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I would really like to thank you, Dr. Hooper, for appearing on the show today. I feel like we had a very good discussion, very good dialogue, and I hope the listeners feel the same.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I enjoyed being here.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed having you. So we'll take a quick break and then we'll be right back. Hey guys, before we jump into the last topic of the episode, I wanted to give you Dr. Hooper's social media handle so you can find her on LinkedIn, and I'll spell out her name. That way it's easier for you to find her. So Dr. and then her first name is spelled Ganielle. Middle name begins with the E, so Danielle E. Hooper. And so hopefully that'll help you find her on LinkedIn. And I really want to thank her again for appearing on the show. I feel like it was a really good conversation. And I feel like she made me better in my work. And so I also want to give you her Instagram for her practice page. And it's at access_hope. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in actually. So what I want to discuss in the end is that we've been seeing all of these people announcing their candidacy for the 2020 elections. And I want to point out two different things that I've been noticing and discussing on Twitter. Yes, you do need to point out the flaws of candidates because especially it's important to vote for someone who will actually do something and make a difference. But do not let just the fact that a candidate is imperfect ban you from voting, or just a few things you do not like ban you from voting, because that's how we got Donald Trump. Voting is very important, and I don't know how to express that more than I can, because for instance, Ruth Bader Ginsburg right now is in and out of the hospital, and she hasn't been at her oral arguments and things like that. Again, whoever is president gets to place Supreme Court justices, lifelong positions that can shape the entire legal body, because a lot of times like the law has to defer to what the higher court says. So like it can shape so much for so long, for decades to come. It's already a 5-4 majority for the conservatives. If it's 6-3, it's going to be horrible. So it's important to vote in these primaries. It's important to vote in the actual election. And I just really want to encourage everyone to, yes, read up, be knowledgeable, know what these candidates have done, pick the best one, and pick someone. At the end of the day, like, you do not want to let Donald Trump get another 4 years. And honestly, it could be a very real possibility. Republicans will stick to him through and through. His core base will stick to him through and through. Like, look at what he's getting away with now. Do you really think they won't let him get voted in again? In Georgia, Brian Kemp was elected governor. He's a direct descendant, basically, of Donald Trump. So I just want you to understand, this wasn't a fluke. This isn't something that could just happen once and never happen again. Russia, yes, played a part in all of that, but there are people out here with these horrible views. There are people out here who are just bigots, and they will go out and vote, and we need to go out and vote. Rain, sleet, sun, snow, shine, all of that. You need to get up and vote. It's important. Absentee ballots if you can, early voting if you can, like all of these different things. Show up at the polls. Again, whether it's in an absentee ballot, whether it's early voting, whether you're there in November 2020, you have to vote. It's important for your life. Like, humanity, basic rights, all of that is at stake constantly in this country. And it's sad. And again, no candidate is going to be perfect. They're going to, like, there's things about, I don't know if it's Kamala or Kamala Harris, but I don't know how to pronounce her first name, and I hate if I butchered it. I'm sorry. But there's things I don't like about her. But push comes to shove, yeah, I will vote for her most definitely. And I think that was the era that people really didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton. There were things I wasn't fond of about her. Super predator. That's a language that's been detrimental to black men and black people in general when it comes to police brutality. But at the end of the day, I voted for her. I was not going to let Trump win. And so, but he did anyway, because so many sat it out, or so many voted for people who, if you dug into it, they weren't that great either, and that third party option just messed things up and split the vote. So again, there is a time where you could be revolutionary, and I am a kind of a progressive person and kind of leftist, but you also have to remember, you do not want Donald Trump or anyone of his like him to get in office. Ruth Bader Ginsburg is really old. Like, again, it's just so important to think of all of the factors. It's beyond you, okay? When you vote, you are voting for you and your humanity, but you're also voting for everybody else. Look at the kids dying in what I'm going to call modern day concentration camps with the immigration stuff. Again, it's more than you. It's bigger than you. So I just challenge you to remember that, and I just challenge you to be focused on who's announcing their run. I encourage you to be involved in the politics as much as is healthy mentally possible.
Okay.
Baby, know when you're ready.
Hey.
Know when you're ready.
Let me know when you're ready.
I'll be waiting on you.
I'll be here.
Waiting on you.
You the one I wanna do life with. Cinderella is looking like the shoe might fit. Yo, I'm tryna make you my miss. Cause girl, you got this impeccable style, you're too priceless. Girl, I plan to handle you with care. The Bible did say we entertain angels unaware enough. Just saying, girl, you be coming with it. A lily among thorns, or you to these other women now. I know you've been hurt before, so I'ma take my time and approach it slow. Mistakes, I refuse to help you make another. You look good in many shades, but blue ain't your color. Like Jacob and Rachel, you're worth the wait. When it's real, even years seem like a few days. Hey, I believe you are worth it though. I'll be here when you're ready, just let me know.
Baby, know when you're ready. Know when you're ready.
Hey,
I'll be waiting on you.
wait, man.
Waiting on you.
Hey everyone, I'm here with Atia from Pure the Series, the web series that I told you guys about earlier. How are you doing today, girl?
I am doing so very great, thank you. How are you?
I am doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. So we're going to just jump on in. So what was your inspiration for your show?
Okay, so I have 3 sources of inspiration, and the first one stems from a conversation that I had with my father. I remember I was in the car on my way back from a road trip, and I was so frustrated because I felt like I had so much to say about certain things. For instance, I'm an animal activist, so I always felt like I wanted to become an actress, and the reason why I wanted to be an actress was to be able to have a platform to be able to raise awareness on animal activism. And to just help people expand their compassion towards animals, at least if anything. And I feel like there were so many celebrities that I looked up to out there that were able to just be themselves, like unapologetically, and just say whatever the heck they wanted to say. And my dad helped me realize that if I was to use my creativity to spread my word and to help spread the awareness, then that might be a more receivable option as opposed to just being like really radical online and like hoping everybody joins my compassion bandwagon, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, well, I have a story I can tell. I have a lot of stories in my life that I can share creatively. So why not infuse my story and then the things that I really want to portray to others? And so, yeah, that was the first source of inspiration. The second source was heartbreak, actually, which is like a big theme of Pure. But I really wrote Pure for healing purposes. I wrote Pure because I needed clarity, and I really needed to take a step back and kind of look from a bird's eye view of what the situation was, and it really helped me learn a lot about myself and just about how I need to boost my self-esteem a little bit.
Oh no, we all struggle. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness, yes. And then imagine watching your life unfold on camera. You're like, oh girl, why'd I do that? And then my last source was really like I said, I wanted to be an actress originally to be able to have a platform to speak on things that I wanted to raise awareness about, such as animal cruelty or animal advocacy. But I was going out for these roles, and I moved to Atlanta in 2016. And I know that in Atlanta, in order to like really make it, I feel like it's really beautiful to have an agent. But for some reason, I couldn't get an agent. I wasn't even applying for lead roles. I was always applying for supporting roles. And I'm like, if I'm not booking the things that I want to book and I'm not getting the agent that I want to get, then why not literally create the lead role that I want and I'm too scared to apply for? So I literally created the role that I wanted. And yeah, that was really the inspiration. The inspiration was just to be able to have faith and courage in myself and to be able to help others have faith and courage in themselves. So those are like the 3 main sources of inspiration.
Got you. And that's very interesting, the advice that your dad gave you. I love that he gave you a way to use your already present creativity with your passion, you know, for animal rights. I love that.
Definitely. Thank you.
You're welcome. I love that. I'm also an animal rights activist, so yay. Like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah. So yeah, I love that. And also something else that I really liked when I was listening to your answer was the fact that you decided to take charge of your life and your creativity and your passion. You aren't relying on someone else. Like, you're creating, you're creating your own space. So I thought that I thought that was really good. So yeah, just talking more about the show, how would you describe the characters?
I would describe these characters as your average but not so average young adults. So I tried to well, Pure is based off of a true story, so it's an 85% true story on my love life, or of my life in general. And I feel like each character is very relatable. Everybody in the story has at least one issue that someone else who's watching the show has, whether it be anxiety or depression or an insecurity or just low self-esteem. But we also have like great qualities in the show. Like we have a large sense of humor. We're very snarky. We're like basically the friends that you always wanted, the friends that you know that you need, and like you kind of either have spent your whole life looking for. Like even when I met my friends in real life, I remember telling my mom, like, I found my tribe. Like, this is my tribe. So I feel like the people in the story are very extremely relatable, and they're like your average, like I said, not so average young adults, because we're very vocal and we're very self-aware, which I feel like is something that sometimes kind of lacks in our generation. So it's cool to see that side of the young adulthood. But you see us struggling, but we're also just trying to make it.
Yeah, I like that. And so, like, kind of like you were saying, like, it is relatable to, like, you know, the normal, like, person our age. And so that's something that really drew me to it when I was watching it. So just thinking about, you know, that comparative nature, is there a show that you would compare it to?
Oh my God. Okay. So it was actually inspired by, or the writing style. And even if you realize we have some camera looks, which is like breaking, I guess, one of like the filmmaker's rules or something, but I like to break rules. So when you look directly into the camera, they say that's not a good thing. But I have a lot of those shots in my series, and it's all thanks to The Office, featuring, I forgot who the main character is in Office. That's so bad.
You're good.
Insecure, which is another one of my favorites. And then even before Insecure, Issa Rae had also wrote, I believe it's Diary of an Awkward Black Girl, or the Misadventures of an Awkward Black Girl.
Yes.
So that's really, she actually, it was my inspiration in being able to know that I could film Pure myself, I can write Pure myself, I can cast Pure. Like she really gave me the confidence, like subliminally, to do this project. So I would definitely say that those are the top 3 shows that I've really been inspired by, or that can remind you of Pure.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were saying it, like I was like, I bet she's gonna say Insecure, because like I just got the vibes from it. Like it just that, and I think that's what I love so much about it, because Insecure itself is also really relatable, and just it just is real and authentic, and that comes across as well in your show, and I really love that. Thank you
so much.
Oh, you're welcome. What would you say is the most rewarding part of your work?
Oh my gosh. I feel like the most rewarding part, well, two of them. The first one would be just to know the amount of courage that it took to be able to produce Pure. There were a lot of things that tried to stand in my way, and I'm very proud of the fact that I persevered and I pushed through the turmoil. And even having the courage to tell my story. I mean, I could have been judged by so many people, and I probably am, but like, who cares? It gave me the courage to not to care. And I'm trying to think. I think the other part is really being able to give people, or my cast, a chance. Like a lot of the people that were in Pure, whether it be they were just kind of nervous to start off their acting career, or just weren't given a chance because of whatever it may be, like height or acting experience, or whatever the case may be. And I feel like that made Pure so much more real and raw, though. Like we became a family on set, so we weren't acting like we were friends. We were genuinely friends, and we genuinely had that connection, you know? So I think that was really one of the most rewarding parts, is being able to give everyone the safe space to be themselves. It's like have the acting career that they want to have, or at least start it off with Pure, and to be able to see themselves in a light that is like, wow, I'm talented, you know? Because I feel like a lot of people get slept on, whether it be because of their looks or because of their age, or like I said, because of their height, which is a weird thing, I know. So yeah, it was just really cool to be able to give people a chance and see them shine and just do their own thing and just be so drawn into the character. They were asking me questions like, okay, so how would this person react to this? Or would they be on their phone? Or, you know, would they be more chill? They were so into the characters. I appreciate it as a writer. So those are the most rewarding parts.
Yeah, and I like that. I like that you're breaking the mold, because we're tired of seeing the same old, like, you know, like you were saying with height or how someone looks. Like, we're tired of the conventional things. Yes, we want actual diversity, not it just to be like a boilerplate thing that people throw out. Like, we want actual, you know, diversity. So I really admire that part that you were speaking about. So what would you say is perhaps the most difficult part of your work?
Oh God, this is gonna sound kind of odd, but lighting and sound, like that was the most frustrating part throughout this entire process. I swear, like anytime we had to change scenes and I knew I had to change up the lighting, it was like, all right guys, give me like 30 minutes because like this is going to take a while. You have to make sure there's not a shadow behind someone, and then you have to make sure that you're beating the light outside. So if you're doing a day shoot, you want to make sure that you finish shooting that by around 5 before the lighting starts to change. It's very exhausting, but yeah, believe it or not, that's probably one of the hardest parts. And the other part is actually the opposite of your last question, which is having to tap into that like really honest and authentic part within. Originally, I had wrote a version of Pure the series, and I remember I showed my mom the series, and we read it through together, and she was like, "It's beautiful, but you know, you're missing this person. How'd you forget about this friend and this situation?" And you know, like dig deep and just have the courage. So it took me a second to really realize, like, if I'm going to tell the story, I got to tell the whole story. So that was probably one of the difficult parts for me. But once I did it, it seemed like the easiest part. So
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, vulnerability can be hard. So,
yes,
like, I totally get that. And I also get what you're saying about, like, the sound and lighting. And from the episodes that I've watched, the sound was great. Like,
oh, thank you.
Yes. Like, I was like, oh, like, I don't have to turn up my MacBook. Like, oh, yes. Like, I can hear this on, like, this little notch. Like, I'm feeling it. So, yeah, like, I appreciate the hard work that you put into it. And you can tell, like, with the lighting, I can definitely tell. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. I just want to give you your props. Like, you deserve it.
I'll pat myself on the back, too.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So just, you know, thinking about your series, you were saying how y'all all come together and there's like this friendship and everything like that. Are you open to additional actors or actresses appearing on your show?
Oh my goodness, of course. Well, actually, this is like an insider, but I'm working on Pure 2.
Okay.
So that should be coming out. Yeah, we're going to probably start pre-production this summer. So yeah, I have a lot of new characters that are added. I'm actually really, really looking forward to the casting process. I've had people reach out to me though since Pure first aired, or even when they knew that we were kind of wrapping up on production and they want to just kind of hop on for the next season. I'm like, send your stuff over. I give them the email address to send like their headshot. But it was interesting to me to see there were some people who DM me and I would tell them what they have to do, send me your reel, your headshot, or even tell them to send me a recorded monologue, because I know when you're an actor or an actress and you're just starting out, or even if you've been working for a while but you're just having a hard time getting your reel footage, not everybody has a reel. And there are some really talented people out there without an actor's reel. So I said, you know, you can do a pre-recorded monologue, but I guess I'll do a statistic of like 10 people reached out to me. Only about 4 people actually sent that email. But it was really beautiful to me because I'm like, those are the 4 people who really want it, you know? I don't want the people who are going to say, oh, that's too much work, I'm not going to do it. Like, I want the people who immediately after I DM them back, send me that email. Like, hey, girl, I'm here, check me out. So to answer your question, yes, I would definitely be open to adding some new characters.
Awesome. And so... yes. Just kind of something, you just kind of tapped into it a little bit about Pure 2. So is that the only project that you see yourself developing in the near future, or are there some other things?
Oh my God, I currently have, besides Pure, 4 completed scripts in my laptop. So at this point, I just wish that I could like clone myself and have at least like 10 more of me, and we could get these productions rolling. Yeah. And now it's really just to the point of figuring out if I want to do my smaller projects first, and then really truly focus on the larger ones, or just spend my time doing larger ones, or multitask. It's like so many options. But I definitely have a lot of projects I'm excited about. One being Pure 2. I have another documentary coming out that showcases like the inside of the mind of the Black man, which I feel like a lot of us like forget about or are too scared to like inquire about. So I did a Black men's documentary. It doesn't have an official name yet. That's the title I've been giving it. But yeah, I'm trying to tap into doing short films, more web series, and then also documentaries, which I think is going to end up being another passion of mine. So
awesome. That's interesting. Like that. You're welcome. And it just, again, like speaks, like I'm over here gassing you up, but for real, like it speaks to like your talent. Like you have all these like diverse projects that you're working on, from the web series to documentaries. So Like, that is awesome. Like,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. And so, just kind of wrapping it up, like, how long has the show been running?
The show has been running since June 2018.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So, roughly about a year.
Yes.
Okay,
We're
cool.
coming up on the anniversary soon.
Yes, awesome. So yeah, just for the listeners, just give them all the details and information, like your social media and just how they can watch the show.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so if you want to watch Pure the series,
Mhm.
there are three ways you can watch it. One, you can go on our Instagram, which is Pure Pure the series official. That's our Instagram. You can click the link in our bio, or you can go to loveatia.com and then you can press a little Pure the series link at the top, and that'll lead you to our YouTube. Or you can go to our YouTube page and type in Pure the series, and you're gonna see my face, which you might not know what it looks like. But you're gonna see a girl with an afro, two guys sitting next to her, and then me holding a sunflower. So, and the sunflower represents purity. So the sunflower is kind of a running theme throughout Pure. So yeah, that's how you can follow us and watch it. Please subscribe. We have a goal of getting 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal, and I'm sticking to it. So that's what we're focusing on right now.
Exactly. So yes, y'all heard her. Go check it out. I promise it's worth it. I promise y'all. And make sure that you subscribe because as she said, that's important and that's her goal and we're going to make it happen. So yes. So I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show today.
Oh my gosh, thank you. No, seriously, you like made my day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So all right guys, we're going to take a break and then we'll be right back. Hey everyone, we're back. And as promised, I have an up and coming singer ready to share her voice with you live. And so I'm incredibly excited. But first, I would like to give her a chance to introduce herself to you all. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Hello, my name is Jasmine Wright. My Twitter is Jezebel Wrights. My IG is Miss Wright the Writer. I've been singing for a long time since I was like 8 or 9 years old. My influences, D'Angelo, Beyonce, Lana Havas, Anita Baker. The list it goes on and on.
Beyonce is one of my like favorite. I mean, I think everybody knows this, but Beyonce is like one of my favorites, and so she definitely like influences me. And then I can get the Anita Baker too, and even like nobody will ever touch Whitney, but like she like
No.
She was definitely an influence for me too. So like that's pretty good. So everyone, the moment is coming. So I'm gonna give her a few moments to breathe, but we're gonna start, and she's gonna be singing a Frank Sinatra song for you. All right. So are you ready? Okay, I'm going to give you a few seconds and go when you're ready.
All right. Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I really like. Hey everyone, we're back. So again, I said we were going to talk about dating, and while I was reading some things online, one topic kind of stuck out to me that I thought was an interesting one to discuss. So basically, it's discussing depression and when you're dating someone, when is the right time or when should you talk about your depression with them. And one thing that I want to say, just a personal aside, is that you don't owe anyone anything or everything. You do not have to give the most intimate parts of you. And I'm not talking just physical. I'm talking about the emotional, the crux of you. You do not have to give that to anyone until they've earned that through action, countless times of action. And so that's just kind of how I want to preface the conversation. And so anyway, one quote that they said in there that I want to mention is that depression is just one part of your story. It does not define you. So when you want to discuss, it's a tricky thing because people want to know, like, when should I do it? There is no time. There is no preferred time. There is no perfect moment. None of that. But the article kind of suggested that you do it when you feel a level of comfortability with the person. If you hear how they talk about other people and you sense, like, if you can feel and you can tell that they have that level of compassion and maturity and understanding, then it might be a good time. If you see a future with them, again, it might be a good time. And if you already kind of built an emotional intimacy with the person, then yeah, go for it. And then, but a kind of obvious sign that, on the flip side, that if you hear how they talk about other people and they don't show a level of maturity, compassion, or understanding, or attempt to understand mental health issues, because that's a misunderstanding and stuff like that. And, people don't get it unless they've gone through it. But if they don't even attempt to understand and they make some very ignorant statement, not only is that a sign that you don't need to share that part of yourself, but that you actually might need to run and that they're not the person for you. That's a red flag. And so, again, there's no timetable for it. And people are hesitant because of the fact that there's such a stigma attached to mental health and depression and all those things. And so before I kind of move on to the next topic of dating, if you or someone needs help, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. Okay, so kind of moving on. And so we were talking about red flags a little bit. So according to divorce attorneys, there's 9 big dating red flags. And I thought I would mention those to the listeners. So they're talking marriage or the next big step, but they're talking about it like super soon. Like, I don't think there's a timetable in the sense that, that love has to occur in this many months or this many years, and you can know that you might want to marry somebody from the moment you meet them, but that doesn't mean that you should. And so it kind of like, it can be an indicator of an obsession, a problem, or they don't understand the importance of commitment. And it could be an unhealthy sign. And, if they exaggerate and they're like, if you do online dating, if they exaggerate in their dating profiles, then there you go. If this is a huge one, a huge, huge, huge one, if they paint themselves as the victim of all of their past relationships, if they say all of their exes are crazy, it's a sign that they can't take responsibility, that they can't hold themselves accountable for their past and their relationships. Nobody's perfect. And I'm sure that everybody, even if your ex really did do you wrong, I'm sure there was maybe one thing or something that you've done wrong too, even if it wasn't with that person, but in the past. Because I've been shady. Like, I've dated 2 best friends and then like they pulled up to like a show I was performing at and they wanted to talk to me and I'm like, oh crap, and so I'm running. So we've all had our moments. And so if they are always acting like they're the perfect saint and that they did nothing wrong, and it's just everybody else just dumping on poor old them, that's a red flag. Another one, and it's kind of major because you don't want to be seen as shallow, but if there's no physical spark, that's a red flag. You deserve someone who you are physically attracted to. You deserve someone that your body's attracted to, that your body meshes with. So if there's no physical spark, that's okay. Like, it doesn't make you shallow. Now, if you're over here dating because you want to have mixed babies, yeah, you're shallow and you're anti-black or what have you. But again, everyone deserves someone that they can feel comfortable being intimate with and love being intimate with and be attracted to. So physical spark is okay. And if it's not there, that's an okay reason not to deal with someone. Another thing is they've been divorced multiple times. I mean, I think, that's clear. Maybe they're the problem. If their financial life is a mess, like everybody has hard times and they have, like people get fired, laid off, things happen. But if they're constantly having problems with financial stability, that's an issue. It can roll over into you. You can, if you date them, if you marry them, that can roll over to you and you have to bear those financial burdens and it can affect you, your credit and your life and your finances. And so just again, it's a red flag. Date someone who is financially responsible overall. Also, This one, they're technically married but separated. Red flag. Of course, some people date while they're, while they're still technically married, but, again, excessive drinking. Everybody turns up, everybody drinks, but you do not want, you do not want to date someone who's an alcoholic, especially because you never know how people can be when they drink. And sometimes a lot of people are mean, aggressive drunks, and they can be abusive. So that's a red flag to watch for. And then if they want to spend every waking moment with you, it sounds beautiful. It sounds poetic. It sounds like a Disney fairy tale in the beginning. But if they want to be around you too much too soon, it might be a sense of desperation. It might be a sense of obsession. It can be a lot of different things. If they can't give you your space, that's bad, because in a relationship, you're still supposed to be able to give each other space. You're still supposed to be, two separate individuals that just come together. But if they can't do that, then it can indicate possibly like some sense that it might turn violent. Like it's something to watch for, They might need to work on themselves. So those are some 9 dating red flags according to divorce attorneys. And so the last bit about dating, and I wanted to kind of harp on dating because I usually don't talk about it in my podcast. So I thought it'd be something new. So these are 12 little ways that couples in long distance relationships can stay connected. And, I don't know how many listeners out there are in long distance relationships, but I thought this might be helpful for those who are or those who are considering it. So make it a point to talk every day, even when you're busy or not in the moods. It doesn't have to be a 3-hour call. That can be great, but sometimes 15 minutes is enough, Make sure that, you separate update conversations from connection conversations. And I think that's very important. Like, yeah, you need to talk about like, oh, how was work? What did the doctor say? Like, those things are important. You need to keep updated and know what's going on, but it's not intimate. So you need to balance those updates with deeper, less distracted, less small talk conversations. And remember that you're still a couple. So keep that in mind. Connective conversations and update conversations, 2 different things. Schedule date nights, when you can eat a meal or even watch a movie or a show together over FaceTime. Like, it might seem corny, but date nights over FaceTime, especially if it's a long distance relationship, it can be great. And then, it's not outdated to send postcards or love letters. Those are beautiful. When I tell you, it wasn't necessarily a love letter, but I was close with the guy who, he was at basic because he was going to the military, and he wrote me letters, and it was like, it gave me something to look forward to. It was great getting those letters in the mail. Like, those things are nice, and it's not outdated. It's not corny. Like, it's something beautiful to do. Like, getting real mail that's not a bill, like, that's life. Like, get something good in the mail to look forward to. You don't want another bill. Start a project together, think of some things that you could do, travel when you can together, just different things, Find excuses to celebrate each other. You don't have to wait for a big occasion. And this is something that I'm trying to kind of incorporate. I'm single, but just like from a personal perspective, is not waiting for a big occasion to celebrate myself or to enjoy myself. I'm trying to work out of, waiting for Friday or being so happy about Friday or Saturday, and try to enjoy it every single day. Like, try to make something good out of a Monday or Tuesday and Wednesday or Thursday. You get this sort of thing. Like, don't wait until certain times to celebrate, Celebrate all the time. Hide little notes in each other's suitcases after a visit, because that'd be great. They're unpacking and they find something. It's that same kind of that same kind of dopeness that you can get with the letters. And plan something special for the times they visit, so they have something to look forward to. Again, like, having something to look forward to in life is great. It's a motivating factor, and it helps keep the spark alive. And when you are together, whether it's on video chat or together, whatever, do some of the favorite activities of theirs. And it just kind of creates that kind of bonding thing, especially if it's over video chat or FaceTime or whatever. It makes you feel like you're doing them together. Like, technology can have its downsides, but it can also be a beautiful, wonderful thing. And this is one of the ways that it is wonderful. So there's that. And again, like, use the mail. Don't just use it for bills. Like, send each other care packages or surprise gifts in the mail. Like, that's something awesome. Again, like I said, technology is great. Find new ways to connect, like, pull a Soulja Boy, kiss me through the phone, like something, you know what I'm saying? And just the most important thing is, when you are together, just make the most of your time that you have together. All right, so those are some dating tips. I hope you find them helpful.
got me?
Yeah. Allow me to talk my shit. Allow me to talk my shit. Ay, allow me to talk my shit. Allow me to talk my shit. I know they feel me, look in their eyes, they tell the true story. A nigga that's not afraid to stand up and be outspoken. The spirit of Fred Hampton has been awoken. My spirit's golden. Bullets cannot kill my soul. I'm coming for everything that I own. The Black Messiah got my powers from the most highest.
Silence, silence, we about to riot, riot.
Fuck fear, forget you killed for real. Checking my inventory, I can't properly equip. My laptop is a gold mine. Drinking moonshine to the early sun. No way I let these rappers outshine me. Tell the labels put the money up, I go so both of us. Word up, ain't nobody throwing up like I vomit. Pay homage to a young nigga that's paving the way for that real shit to come back in your stereo. Right now y'all don't hear me though. A couple years y'all gon' feel me though. Cause
Felicity Huffman, you know, Desperate Housewives. She was also on American Crime that aired on ABC. That was canceled, but Regina King was on it and won her some Emmys for it. A shout out to her. So anyway, I broke it in my cheating episode, and if you haven't caught that one, go ahead and check it out. That she was caught in the college bribery scandal, which also involved Lori Loughlin from Full House and Fuller House. And so basically, she was finally sentenced, and she was just sentenced to 14 days and a fine. And of course, that spurred a lot of outrage on social media and articles, blog posts, all these different things for various reasons, because there are many stories that you can point to with black women and other minorities, especially black women, where they were trying to do better for their kids and they're being sentenced to years in prison. As such, there are many people out here, you know, saying that this is an example of white privilege, and it absolutely is. But it's also an example of class privilege, because not only is she white, but she has money. And money talks, you know. Yes, whiteness talks too, but money talks as well. So it's an example of both. So anyway, amongst the outrage, John Legend spoke up, and he basically said that we shouldn't be mad at her sentence. Like, we shouldn't be mad at Felicity Huffman. We shouldn't be criticizing her. We should be mad that it's a crime at all, rather than being mad at the disparity. I think that it should be both. We can do both at the same time. Yes. Now, John Legend makes a good point, but he's making it in the wrong way. What she was doing is buying her daughter's way into school. Did her daughter want to get into school? Did she really care or value an education? More than likely not. And again, this is the same girl. Like, her mom's rich, her dad's rich. They have money. She has access to resources that others do not. Like the minority mothers who are advocating for their children and try to do things that they can to get them in better schools and things like that. They don't have these same resources. They don't have the same funds. Her daughter, if she's struggling, she can, like I said before in the episode, the cheating episode, she can, you know, get help for any kind of learning disability. She can have access to help with her SAT scores, you know, tutorers, you know, classes, all these things that she could do. You know, but instead they want to throw money at the situation and buy their way out of it. Yeah, you're trying to provide a better life for your child and help your child out, but your child has to do the work, and you also just can't take the easy route out. You know, and that's where the privilege comes in for me in this sense. And so, yeah, here, John Legend, here to anyone else who has the same kind of thinking, I'm going to be mad at her sentencing because it doesn't count in this case to me. Now, if you're talking about a mother who lives in a really, really bad district and she faked like an address or used another address, you know, to help her child attend a school in a better area, then you know what? I'm for what he's saying, that you should be mad that it's a crime at all, because in that case, it makes sense. They don't have access to resources. They are disadvantaged in so many ways, and they're doing what they can, literally all that they can, to try and help their child. Those are the people that I feel bad for. Those are the people that I understand more, you know? Not Felicity Huffman, not her daughter, not Lori Loughlin, not her daughter, not any of the kids involved in this rich people's scam. It's not fair to others who work their behind off and don't have access to resources, to those who had to scrape, who just came from such horrible conditions and, you know, made it. They fought through, they got the education, they made it into these schools or trying to get into these schools, you know, things like that. So John Legend, he got it right, but he also got it wrong with this one. So people were like, you know, whining about the use of the blue profile pictures on Instagram and Twitter and maybe on Facebook. No, that in and of itself isn't going to do anything. That's not the point. It's to raise awareness. If people see everybody putting on blue avatars and abbeys, they're going to Google, what is that for? That's how you learn. That's how you educate. I feel like people are so quick to criticize without fully looking at the layers behind things. And when people know, and the more things get out there, there's hope. But basically, so a Sudanese influencer, she posted on Instagram about what was going on. Essentially, there's been protests and violence erupted through the protests. And as far as I know, from the last few days ago, there was like 124 deaths, 700 injuries, and over 70 cases of rape. And I don't know if those numbers have increased, but that's just enough right there to matter. They were blocking internet access for civilians, and there was just like a whole media blackout. Soldiers are raiding hospitals, and they're attacking wounded protesters, and there's just disposing of bodies in the Nile. It's just a lot going on. So it's just important to make sure that you keep yourself abreast of world issues and happenings. Just because it's not happening here at the moment, it doesn't mean it doesn't matter, So please take this as a moment to look more into what's going on in Sudan and just make yourself knowledgeable and look up ways to help, because I know there were some ways online. So please just look up ways to help. Use your agency, do the work. When you want to criticize the blue things on Twitter, okay, so what are you doing? Find ways to help, educate other people, just do what you can. But anyway, so there's that. And then I just kind of briefly wanted to talk about the transgender deaths, because I feel like it's important and it doesn't get enough attention. So let's start off and talk about how the life expectancy of a transgender person is about 35 years old. Now, we know first and foremost that, Asians have high life expectancy and white people have higher life expectancy than black people. But just think about 35 years old. And I don't use the term third world countries because that's disrespectful. Nobody's a third world country. I prefer developed and developing. So in the developing countries, maybe their life expectancy, I know like in some areas it's 50 something. But here, transgender people have a life expectancy of 35. And there's so many factors between them being murdered, between, them being discriminated in the workplace and everywhere else. And especially like, in homeless shelters and things like that, leaving them susceptible to death, in various ways, and mental health effects, and like from suicide or from lack of resources and health issues, all these different things. But the focus here is murder and their deaths, and I want to mention names, and I want to give them attention in their moment that they deserve. But again, imagine a life expectancy of 35. It's crazy, right? And then imagine a person of color that's transgender and their life expectancy. And I'm a huge proponent. I always say that words matter, because words do matter, because words become ideas, and ideas become thoughts, and then it turns into action, because people don't just act. There's something that provokes it. What provokes it? Usually some idea in your head, some belief. You act on your beliefs, like me doing this podcast. Just different things. Words mean things. They snowball into things, and them themselves mean things regardless of the snowballing into action. And I think that's important to distinguish, because physical wounds, they can heal, and they can heal faster, but emotional wounds, they can take months, years, decades, if they ever heal. So I'm sorry, that whole adage of sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I'm so sorry that you were taught that, because I was wrong. Words, in fact, can hurt. And I think telling people that they can't and that they don't have much of an effect is a disservice to children, to adults, to everyone. And I think that's a huge problem with the world, because words matter. Words of Donald Trump inflame his audience and get them to, wild out and perform his whims. Words matter. So just think about that. Transgender people, again, they are honoring their identities, what makes them feel comfortable, which makes them love themselves, what's authentic to them, and it has no bearing on you. They are not going to harm you. Against the false narrative, they are not gonna come in bathrooms and assault people, or children or anyone. They, they're not predators. That's not it whatsoever, and that's ignorant. And I'm going to rebuke all forms of ignorance for as long as I'm drawing breath on this earth. They're not, a disservice to masculinity or destroying, the black community or any community. These are people who are just living their lives and making them happy, and they're not hurting anyone. So we're going to start with some of the deaths in 2019. In 2018, there were 26 deaths of transgender people due to fatal violence, and the majority of them were black transgender women. So I'm just going to go through some that are occurring in 2019, and at least 10 of them were fatally shot or killed by other violent means. Dana Martin, 31. A black transgender woman was fatally shot in Montgomery, Alabama on January 6. She was found roadside in a ditch in her vehicle and pronounced dead at the scene. Jazeline Ware, a black transgender woman who was found dead in her Memphis apartment in March, is currently being investigated as a homicide according to the Advocate. Ashanti Carmen, 27, a black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Prince George's County, Maryland on March 30th. Not many details are known about the crime, and the investigation is ongoing. Her fiance, Philip Williams, says, "Until I leave this earth, I'm going to continue on loving her in my heart, body, and soul. She did not deserve to leave the earth so early, especially in the way that she went." Claire Legato, 21. A black transgender woman was fatally shot in Cleveland on April 15th. Local media reports that Legato was shot in the head after an argument broke out between her mother and the suspect. She was taken to a nearby hospital where she died of her injuries the next month, May 14th. Malaysia Booker, 23. A black transgender woman was fatally shot in Dallas on May 18th. She was found dead, lying face down with a gunshot wound near a golf course in East Dallas. In April, the month before, she was viciously attacked in what Dallas Mayor Mike Rawlings described as mob violence. Michelle Washington, 40, a black transgender woman, was fatally shot in Philadelphia on May 19th. Police responded to reports of shots fired in North Philadelphia's Franklinville neighborhood. She was found with several gunshot wounds and transported to Temple University Hospital and was pronounced dead. Paris Cameron, 20, a black transgender woman, was among 3 people killed in a horrific LGBTQ shooting in a home in Detroit on May 25th. Also, Alante Davis and Timothy Blanchard, 2 gay men, were also found dead at the scene. Paris Cameron, the main person we're discussing here, was taken to the hospital where she died from her injuries. Chanel Lindsay, 26, a black transgender woman, was found dead in White Rock Lake, Dallas, with signs of homicidal violence on June 1st, according to police. As of June 4th, no further details were available. Chanel Skurlock, 23, a black transgender woman, was found fatally shot in Lumberton, North Carolina on June 6th. Few details are available right now, but the police claim that they have great leads. Lastly, Zoe Spears, 23, a black transgender woman, was found lying in the street with signs of trauma near Eastern Avenue in Fairmount Heights, Maryland, and was later pronounced dead on June 13th, according to local reports. We honor you, and we're fighting for you, and I'm here to ensure that you get the human rights and the justice that you deserve, and that your names are heard. Say her name. Say their names. Words matter. Their lives matter. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Balance. Please help spread the word. Goodbye.